and welcome to episode 3 of the Motorsport Games podcast with myself, Luke James, and my wonderfully bearded American colleague, Jonathan Sutton. How are you, mate?
I'm doing fantastic. Enjoying the summertime as it is now officially summer. How about you?
Yeah, it's I'm based in London. Whereabouts are you based, by the way, just so everybody knows?
I'm in Houston. I'm a couple hours away from Circuit of the Americas because I know that's, speaking of, sorry, for those that are listening on audio, I was pointing to my t-shirt, which is a Circuit of the Americas t-shirt. I'm a couple hours away from Circuit of the Americas. I figured that makes more sense to describe myself geographically to race fans.
I think for anyone non-American, we just go Circuit America. It's just somewhere in America.
Yeah, it's in the middle somewhere.
I actually went over to Austin with World Rallycross back in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
What a city. I was in the barbecue meat pits, or I don't know what you call them, like the barbecue joints.
Uh-huh.
I want to move to Texas one day. It was honestly my dream. I think I arrived there on a Thursday. I had barbecue on Thursday, Friday afternoon, Friday evening. I think I had to skip it on Saturday, but then Sunday after racing, Monday before we left, I was loving life over there. And the actual, you were recently there. I'm sure you'd agree. The facilities at that circuit are awesome.
Yeah, and of course, when I was there for Lone Star Le Mans earlier this year, I was there in an official capacity doing Le Mans esports social media, posting videos and pictures from the circuit and stuff like that. So really, for the first time ever, I got to see a lot of the behind the scenes facilities, the media center, and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, you are right. It is a nice facility. I mean, you could tell it's less than 10 years old because everything is still quite shiny and new, and the bathrooms are clean and everything is just beautiful over there. And like you said, the food as well too. Although I know it's a bit sacrilege, but I've always been more partial to Tex-Mex rather than barbecue because that's kind of like the two foods of Texas. You got the barbecue, you got the Tex-Mex. I just love me some spicy, cheesy goodness.
Hey, the thing I love about going to F1 circuits, like with Rallycross, we used to go to the traditional circuits where you go there and the media center is literally a white hut, like a white tent somewhere tucked away in the corner of the circuit. But then you go to the F1 tracks, and I think our first ever one back in 2014 was Turkey, the Istanbul city circuit.
Ooh.
Awesome F1 circuit. We actually got to ride around on mopeds, but don't know if we're supposed to tell people that. But anyway,
jealous.
It is a little good story. We were all in the press room at the end of the day as the kind of like core team. A lot of the press had gone home. Every phone, so it's about 300, say, desks in the press room. Every single one of them had a phone. So we came up with a game called Press Room Battleships, where 5 of us would stand at the far end of the press room, away from like all the desks. Someone would get one phone and dial a random number, and it was just 4 of us sprinting through the press room, trying to find the one phone that was ringing. That is the fun that we get up to, and after racing's done, we're super serious, but then we like to have fun after it. Look, this is a Le Mans 24 virtual special. Coming up on this episode, we have got the CEO of the World Endurance Championship, Gérard Neveu, who Justin would agree was an awesome guy to talk to.
Yes.
And after that, we've got Mr. Ben Rossiter-Turner, who is head of esports here at Motorsport Games. He heads up everything from rules to overseeing the technical aspects of esports productions. And Justin, you just caught up with him. How was that for you?
Absolutely fantastic. Ben is super interesting, just like Gerard, actually. 2 very, very interesting conversations. But Ben is more the gaming and digital side of things. And it was very interesting to hear what he thought. 24 hours of Le Mans virtual.
I think it was really cool, the end of Gerard's conversation, that we won't give away too much, but it ended with an invite for Ben to maybe step into the real world one day, which I think is the coolest thing. We're going to get into that a bit more. Justin, you very kindly came on board and helped me out with the social media for Le Mans 24 virtual, because I got to like 4 days before. I was like, it's 24 hours. And I stay away that. So I sent you a very pleading message, I think it was on like Tuesday or Wednesday. But how was it for you working on such a big event?
I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun just to watch. It was one of those things where, and I imagine you were, had sort of a similar feeling where I'm sitting there watching, I'm like maybe an hour or 2 into my shift and just watching some racing, listening to Chris McCarthy do some commentary. And Martin Haven as well too, which was just incredible. Absolutely fantastic to have Martin along. He is one of my favorite commentators in the world right now, I would have to say. But yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm watching and I'm listening to the commentary and I'm watching and I'm just like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. This is the best job ever. It was absolutely fantastic. I kind of touched on it with in my interview with Ben, but I mean, it really was one of the best produced sim racing esports events, if not the best of all time. I mean, just the caliber of talent behind the wheel, behind the cameras, at the direction desk in every single aspect was second to none. And it really showed.
I think for me, I'm in one of my last roles, I was working very loosely with League of Legends, and there are huge esports productions they put on around the world. And you see it the same for all the major kind of esports titles which have got that heritage of esports competition. So you go to the Call of Duties, the Counter Strikes, and the level of production those guys are putting into their production, it looks like a normal sport event would. And I think that was the most eye-opening thing for me with this event, is that Gérard and the WEC team and the ACO team, they came together and put together a TV show which happened to feature racing, which I think was the coolest thing. Gérard really goes into it a lot more in terms of how they planned that. But for me as a fan like you, I was kind of sitting there going, like, pinching myself, like I'm being paid to sit here and watch this. What were your highlights of the race? I think we asked the guys coming up what their highlights were, but what for you was one of your particular highlights?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I kind of touched on this with Ben, and I don't want to give away too much, but there were two things that were mentioned. One is very silly that a lot of people, I think, missed. The other one is the big one. I'll mention that, and that was the cool racing running out of fuel in the pit lane, getting the push from the Alpine LMP2 to get into the pit stall, get refueled, continue their race. Neither of those teams was involved in the battle for the lead or anything like that. So it was just incredible to see, one team helping another, that camaraderie like that. And also, I think a big part of it for me as well was just seeing how many people finished. I've been involved in 24-hour of Le Mans commentary for, I think, 3 years now, in a site, one that wasn't produced by the ACO, a much smaller one, to be honest. But so I'm used to seeing retirements at Le Mans. That's in virtual Le Mans, especially. Something I'm very familiar with. And I think we ended up losing 3 cars out of 50 over the course of the entire. I mean, that's a highlight to me, because it's not easy to finish Le Mans. It's an achievement just to finish. That's something I had to explain to my girlfriend. She's like, why do they even still drive around if they're in 20th place and have no chance of winning? And I said, because finishing is a huge achievement, So, and because you don't know what's going to happen as well. And that really did prove itself to be true. What about you though? I mean, what was your top moment from Le Mans?
I think for me, it's more, I was involved much more in the conversation with the ACO and the WEC in terms of actually getting this event off the ground in terms of a digital or online presence. So I think working in a collaboration across 3 different teams. So just to explain, the ACO, they own the branding rights for Le Mans. And if I'm correct, they own the circuit as well. So if you're going to do anything Le Mans related that looks official, you've got to go through those guys. They're the people to talk to. WEC are the sporting, should we call them gods or let's call them gurus, the sporting gurus. World Endurance Championship is one of the most well-run championships in the world.
Indeed.
I think it's a level of professionalism which most motorsport tries to reach. If F1 is, I always put to the side of it. F1 is a media machine in its own right. But kind of speaking about favorite moments, I definitely love that. I woke up to that moment with the Alpine car, giving the other one a nudge into the pits, and that type of. I saw the Le Mans page say it's the spirit of Le Mans, and it's a motorsport team realizing, look, we're not gonna in this for the win, but we're gonna make sure that other people finish with us. And I think it's ensuring that your peers and your fellow drivers around you that are all fighting on a level playing field. And for me, that was so awesome to see. Also, you also had the technical issues for who was it? Team Redline, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris. I think there was also a couple other teams who had a few disconnection problems. But for me to see that the organisers were so keen for everybody to finish this race, they allowed Atsi Kirchhoff to come back in for the last 2 hours of the race and finish the race in the Team Redline at LMP2. That type of stuff there, I think, just shows sim racing, we can replicate the real world as much as we want, but we also want everybody to finish these races as well. If there was a technical issue in the real Le Mans, a car's out for the whole 24 hours. That's their experience done. But this time we made certain allowances for certain teams to come back in purely for the spirit of racing, and that type of stuff there. I think is brilliant, and like I just said, is the spirit of Le Mans. I think we delivered that really, really well. Coming up next, we've got the Race of Champions, which Motorsport Games produce, and so I think that's going to be another huge project for all of us to work on. And I've seen the likes of Timmy Hansen's been announced. That's my rallycross friends. I don't know anyone else. There's Roman Grosjean. There's so many big stars lining up. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the Motorsport Games social media channels for that, because it's going to be all the news and all the live videos. Going to be all the info you need on Motorsport Games at M-Sport Games across all social media. But look, we can talk about other stuff. It's a Le Mans 24 virtual episode. And first up, introducing the CEO of the World Endurance Championship, Mr. Gérard Neveu. So welcome, Gérard Neveu, CEO of the FIA World Endurance Championship. How are you?
I'm very fine, Luke. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on a wonderful event. How proud are you to have delivered what surely has to be remembered as the greatest motorsport esports event ever seen?
I'm not very proud. I'm just happy. I'm happy for everybody. I'm happy first for the amazing team who made this event happen. And it was a big honor to have the chance to lead this team with fantastic people from WSC, which is my current team. So this is easy to know, but also my staff from TV, from production, from Motorsport Games, to have the chance to work with people like Ben Rossiter is just a great experience. I feel like a coach who has a chance to organize the game with the best players. And in this case, you're so lucky. So I'm more lucky and happy than I'm proud. That's one point. And the second thing, and I am happy for the fan and for the people who trust us on this program.
14.2 million live viewers across television and online. That beats even some of the biggest sporting events. I'm based in UK, you're based in France. I'm sure we see figures of 2 million, 3 million for a top level football match, and there you are delivering 14.2 million. That type of success must have been something you couldn't even promise to sponsors before the event started.
No, because if you know that before, I can tell you that the price of the participation should be different for the partners, definitely. but no, I have to say that we had a chance also to have the benefit of this very special period with the lockdown and with this situation where you don't have any content on TV since I'm speaking about sports since now a few months. The fact also that we have the availabilities of many top drivers and many people staying with us. So it was something really amazing, really attractive, and it helped us a lot to build a very strong program. But I would say that the audience is corresponding to the level of the race that we had the chance to deliver last weekend. And never forget one thing, the big risk we took before was the idea that, okay, we don't want to make an opposition between the e-sport and the sport. We want to do exactly the opposite. We want to put them together. And we tried to make sure that we can organize something and a big meeting, a appointment, let's say, between the real and the virtual, between the digital and the TV, between the e-sport and the sport. And if we put all together in the same group, same task force, around a famous and amazing brand like Le Mans 24, which is one of the most iconic races in the world, a subject that everybody can understand. So it was, and regarding also the specific situation currently, it was clearly a big opportunity, and we used this one.
I guess that leads quite well on. So can you tell us about how and when this idea came about? You said 7 weeks ago. So literally in 7 weeks, you've gone from nothing to delivering, like I said before, the biggest esports race in the world. How did those conversations start?
It started immediately when we decided with Pierre Fillon, the president of the SEO, to postpone Le Mans. It was impossible to organize the race in June, so we decided to postpone in September to maintain a chance to welcome the fan, the public, and to organize properly the event. So we said, okay, and the week after we were discussing, we have a call every day, more or less, and we were discussing and we say, honestly, what we will do on the 13th and 14th of June, we will cry somewhere, we will send some sad texto or WhatsApp or to say, oh, I was supposed to be there. And I said, this is a very poor situation. So can we not imagine, because the box will be empty, to put something inside and to play with the brand and to say, guys, it will be the opportunity to do the best teaser for the real Le Mans in September. So we decided, I did something very simple. I called 5 people. One of my friends is the CEO for TV channel, Eurosport France. I call one key guys from manufacturers. Don't tell you which OEMs, but I call this guy. I call Mike Zoy, the big boss from Motorsport Games, to say, Mike, what do you think about this? And 5 people like this. And the 5 people say, yes, go ahead. That's a good idea. And Pierre say, okay, let's go, jump, go to do it. Just one thing, make sure that you never destroy and you never damage the image of Le Mans 24. And the second thing, make something new. So we have made quickly a benchmark with the existing esports championship to compare what we can compare. And we very quickly we understood it was interesting, fun, but the level of the production was very poor. Yeah. The quality of the sound from the commentators was live streaming from home. The quality of the image and the picture was the same we are using now with Zoom together. So it was not good for TV program, not good for good digital. Now with the tablets and everything, you have perfect picture normally. So we say, okay, that's a shame. So, and we start to have the idea. Then after that, we built from, I would say, mid of April, end of April, we start to build the team. So we made a close meeting with Dimitri Kosko from Motorsport Games, and we have elected all the different players, let's say, for this game. I mean, the key guys for the organization. And we did a meeting every day since this period, end of the afternoon, to make sure that it matched for the American guy, the English guy, and the French guy. And we built something very strong. And we had so many departments working together: sporting, e-game, marketing, logistic, promotion, media. It was absolutely a social media amazing. And it was really something cool, a very good fun, a huge adrenaline, amazing, like the race probably.
I was good. And for me, I've got a background in the real world of motorsport as well, and to come and see an esports event put on to such a high standard and working with such a cross kind of experienced team in terms of, you had your race director from the real life races, you had your event manager.
Yeah, you're right. When you want to make connection between the sport and the e-sport, you have to put Ben and Eduardo together. Yeah. So it was very good because Freitas is the FIA race director, Ben is the Motorsport Games director, and this is the one who is the race director for the e-sport regular season we are doing for the WEC and Le Mans. And you know, the best compliment you can have at the end of the weekend, this guy met together 2 weeks before. Yeah. And they double checked the book rules, the rule books together, and we built the meeting together with them. And at the end of the race on Sunday, I was sitting down with them at the race control, and Eduardo said to Ben, I will have always a seat available for you in any race control room for the real race. Really cool. Because you have the place to be with me. So that's the reason why it matched so well. And what I tell you, between Ben and between Eduardo, you can find exactly the same. You work a lot with the social media, and you were in link with my guy from the social media, and you did an incredible job. Same between George and Fiona, same between all the people. And I have to say that at the end, when the people are focusing on the same direction with the same goal, the same target, the same wish, the same enthusiasm, the same passion, automatically you have a big chance to deliver something good. Same with the relation with R Factor 2. I'm pretty sure that Studio 397 at the beginning, they totally underestimate what we were doing. They say, okay, good opportunity to have exposure. But after a few days or few weeks, they understood, when they discovered the quality of the grid, the very famous name we have on the grid, the buzz we start to have on the digital platform all around the world, the interest from the people, the huge request they had from our technical side regarding the technical deliveries, that it was something very different that they were expecting at the beginning. And for them, I'm sure they had the pleasure when they discovered the picture of the game with the graphics that we are using normally. That was amazing, the picture suddenly, because the reading and the interest and the beauty of the picture was totally different. And I remember the first time when we told them, you have to share your data with my timekeeping company. They were very cold about that. Then after that, when they saw what we delivered together, because it was a teamwork, one more time, I have to say that it was something that you make happy the people for sure.
For me, it was some of the biggest comments I saw online were praising the level of TV production in this. And I think you mentioned there, you using the real world graphics on the esports racing. And as a motorsport fan, watching that for the 24 hours, I think I did 17 hours of it. I did pretty good. I was just completely shocked at the level of production that went into this. And I think when I first saw Julian post the video of the studio when he did a walkthrough, I think that type of stuff there is what really, really sells an event. You can have the greatest racing in the world, but that production around it, I think, really brings together an event. And how important was that for you?
It was crucial since the beginning. When we decided to do the program, I said, okay, we have to do with our current team, the team who are doing the championship. I don't have the right expertise regarding the e-games itself. It's coming out from Motorsport Game. We have this joint venture with Le Mans Esports Series that I have a chance to lead all the year. And we split the job very well. I took the strategic decision, but at the end, I'm working close to the guy from Motorsport Games regarding all the technical aspect and the good deal. So we had to choose first the platform because we had different options. So we choose Air Factor 2 because more close to the endurance sports car racing with day, night, chance of drivers, just the specification of the cars. So we say, go ahead on this direction. And then after that, we have discussing and we say, okay, we will work on the graphics, we will on this, on this, on this. And we share all the different factors together. So it was exactly the way we used to grow up this program and to make it sure that it will be good. The TV signal or the TV high definition was crucial to make the reality close to the virtual, to make the feeling, because the picture of the game is the same. But as soon as you add some graphics, as soon as you are able to have the journalists with the perfect sound when they are in the studio, with the night, the correct colors or light, when you have the guests all around the world, just imagine that we were making this game with 200 drivers split it on 170 simulators within 30 countries all around the world. And 37 nationalities, but 30 countries where there is physically simulators. Then, so it was the first point. So on the same times, we had to send the signal and the story all around the world. It means that when this is night in Europe, this is not night in USA. So you have to maintain the same interest for the race, for example. Or when this is morning in Europe, this is the afternoon in Asia. So you have to make sure that you don't do something spectacular at 3 p.m. French time. Yeah. And from midnight, you start to sleep and back to the morning. So it was exactly the opposite. So the idea was to say, okay, we can have 30 top guests, but with the coronavirus, impossible for them to travel to attend the studio. The studio was behind closed door, so it was limited stuff inside. And we said, okay, let's go and try to establish. So we improved a lot of during the last months, the technology with Zoom, Skype, and everything like this. So we have made the job with our technical department from TV and a huge editorial job to take appointment with the top VIP and make a first rehearsal and sharing the question, and etc. And after that, we wrote a storyboard on the TV program. And we say, okay, we have this on live, we have this already on the box. And as soon as there is something slowed down on the track, use a guest, put the guest. So the way the TV director managed the program was exactly like the TV program. And you know that on TV, there is no option. Or you maintain the interest, or you lost the audience immediately. It was exactly the same. For example, when I discussed with the guy from the eSport, the e-games, they were surprised by the way he managed the selection of the picture. He's not watching what's happened, he's just watching the gap between the cars on the timekeeping page. And he asked for the car very close together. So you never find a way to take your breath, because when you find something new, boom, he switched and he used the new camera. It was a different exercise, very interesting. and the result is the result that you know now.
I think even watching the race, as soon as it went to, we had to think 2 red flags throughout the whole race, 2, let's call them technical issues throughout the race. And even then, the action didn't stop in terms of you had awesome guests consistently lined up. And I think Haley did an awesome job of lining up those interviews there.
And at the end, we had probably less neutralized period in the race than in the real race. Because in the real race, when you have a crash with the car, there is damage on the guardrail. You have to fix the guardrail. So you have a safety car for 30 minutes, then back, then you have no red light. Fortunately, in the real race, this is very exceptional. It means that there is something very serious. But you have a lot of safety cars. And the safety cars, especially in Le Mans, which is a 14-kilometer track, so a very long one. So you have when you have a safety car, this is long, and for the pass away after it takes a long time. So in this race, we had at the end more than 23 hours of live for sure, without interruption, which is the magic of the virtual.
I guess that kind of leads on to now your team's focus is very much switching to the upcoming 6 hours of Spa, and then you've got Le Mans coming in September. How is that? How do you think your team's going to manage going from the virtual back to racing? It's back to what you all love.
So first of all, we already make the connection, because since yesterday or since Monday, I'm working with my European Championship team, because we are managing different championships, and we will start in July in Paul Ricard in Le Castellet, the European Le Mans Series. Then in August, you're right, we will have the WC in Spa. So it's a typically different exercise, because we have some process, this is totally different, but we are already focusing on this future. But for us, this is very usual. When we leave a race somewhere, we immediately project our job for the next race, which is coming a few weeks later. So we never have the time to slow down, or we organize that during the year, of course, like everybody, but we have this is automatic for us to switch to another race or to another program. But important things you have to know. When we start this program, when we go in details 7 weeks ago, we tried to be inspired by the real, and to bring the real to the virtual, and to say how we can make a combination between these two platforms, the real and the virtual. And we find many ways to bring the real, I mean, with the TV production, with the race director Eduardo Freitas, with the way we manage the social media before, with all the strategy like this. But the thing totally new is that on Sunday after the race, we were looking for all the good ideas that the virtual bring to us, and that we should be able to transform and to adapt to the real. So we understood suddenly that there is also many good things that you can take from the virtual platform, and that you can try to accommodate to the real. Yeah. And this is something very new. And so it means that we already switched from the virtual to the real to prepare the race in Spa. But at the same time, we are doing a huge work of debriefing to see, okay, what can we do? I spent 2 hours with the TV director the day after, and we say, okay, this could be very interesting. Why we cannot do like this? For example, you saw in the virtual a lot of more, I will say, priorities with the drivers backstage. The thing that you can never see normally. Yeah. Remember when Simon Pagenaud has to change his seat? Yes. Or when Lando Norris was starting to dance in his seat with the concert of the Hammer. So we had so many things inside. Or the fact that Charles Leclerc was able to share with his fan in live during the race what is his feeling, what he feel, how he enjoyed the race. Or same with Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso, amazing champion. He stays so accessible, so nice, so cool during this race. When you have this level of champions staying cool like this and using this world language, this is an incredible chance. During the real race, it's a little bit more difficult to do it. So we have to find a way to be inspired by this proximity. The real race, since 20 years now, we had to protect and to separate more the public from the paddock, from the drivers, so you put more distance. I feel that with this virtual event, the relation was more closer, more interactivity, more proximity, and this is one thing we have to apply. I'm always taking example like this. I love the motorsport in America because in United States, where there is always the first priority for the interest of the entertainment and of the show, they maintain the maximum they can maintain with the free access to the grid, proximity in the paddock between the fan. It inspires a lot in sports car in Europe, especially in ELMS where this is possible. It has to be the same between the virtual and the real in the future. And the future is coming tomorrow.
I think kind of leads on to what other motorsport do you watch? I'm guessing you're a big, I've looked into your history, you're a big motorsport fan of a history managing event, I think managing Paul Ricard circuit before it went into when it was the test circuit. What other motorsports are you into?
What tell me again, which one I follow?
Yeah. So what other championships around the world do you kind of watch? You mentioned the American sports there, so do you keep an eye on NASCAR?
Well, when you do this job, you must be always humble. You have to be ambitious because this is to bring a platform at the higher level as possible. But you must be humble also because there is so many things coming from different places. So traditionally, what I'm doing every year, for example, I'm visiting at least 3 or 4 different other championships as a guest, just to see what they are doing, what is their approach, how they manage the contact with the public or between the competitors and the officials, or how they structure the paddock, etc. So I'm doing this. And at the same time, I have to spend part of my time to follow what's happened on the rest of the planet, because at the end we are a very small part like this. So if we want to exist, we must be pay attention for what's going on around. So, and not only on motorsport, you say motorsport, but the sport in general, in global. So for example, I remember the first time when I bring my team to Sebring, it was in 2012. When we launched the WEC on March 2012. And I said to the guys, we finished the race. They were very impressive by the weekend. It was so different with the organization we have in Europe. And I said, okay, let's go now. I have 20 tickets for the Miami Heats. You will discover what is a show inside. And this is nothing with the motorsport. This is in link with the sports.
Yeah.
So you have to learn that the first target is to make happy competitors and fans, because this is the 2 major parts of the program. Without competitors, there is no championship, and without fans, there is no value. So you must bring the 2 together, and to make them happy, you have to take care about what they are looking for, what they are expecting, what they want to have. And I bring them and I show them the show. And when you go to see an NBA game, the show starts when you arrive in front of the place.
Yeah,
as soon as you
in the parking lot.
Use your ticket. Yeah, but this is very interesting because this is you don't have to be necessarily a supporter for this team, because the first thing you support is the pleasure you will have to watch an incredible game. I told them last period when there is the lockdown, please go immediately on Netflix and watch The Last Dance.
Yes.
Because the story of Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls is one of the best examples of the biggest performance I never saw in sport. And you will learn a lot. You will learn a lot because you will learn that it was very difficult with such a superstar in the same team, but you will understand that nothing was by magic. They worked like crazy hell to obtain this result. You will understand that Phil Jackson has to manage all these superstars, but at the same time, he has to accept the pressure from the board level, and then also that this team has to fight against the aggressivity of all the other franchise, very jealous about this leading position, and how they play together, how they have this capacity to put them, not to consider that because they won one championship, they will be the best. No. Immediately after 3 weeks or 4 weeks of break, they restart everything. They reset the machine and they say, okay, guys, we have to start from 0. And what time is it? So, and it was so good to do it like this. And this is the same for us. So the big lesson from last weekend, it was like a reset. Yeah. We start from a white page and we discover a new way. If you climb the mountain, it's like the feeling that you just open a new way to touch the top of the mountain. And many people will do it better than us. This is not a question. And many people will do differently. But we explore something and we learn a lot of more last weekend than we give. It's amazing. It's something very interesting.
Gérard, you're no stranger to large sporting events. I've done my research on you. I've been talking to you on Skype calls and Zoom calls for the last few weeks, but I was quite shocked to find out that you, as a proud Frenchman, were working quite heavily involved in the 1998 World Cup held in France. How was that in terms of a sporting event to work on?
It was amazing because this is another big exercise. First of all, this is one of the biggest planet events you can have. A World Cup, a soccer World Cup is just amazing. The story was good for us because we won on the same period, so you can imagine the volume of the event. Yeah. And no, it was a great experience, but for me, it was a big management experience. And I will tell you why. Because in this sport, this is not very usual. This is for the World Cup or for the Olympic Games. You have to mix professional staff and volunteers. And the approach is totally different when you are paid for something or when you have volunteers to arrive. You have to motivate, you have to train, you have to explain the people. You have to keep them with you not for 1 week, for 7 weeks, which is the length of the World Cup. So it's something very, very challenging. And you have to make sure that there is no jealousy between the volunteers and the professional staff, or there is no arrogance between the professional staff and the etc. And all the people, exactly like we did during the last 7 weeks, has to focus with the same target, the same wish, the same enthusiasm, and the same codes, the codes that you use. For example, it was easy when we did this event during the last 7 weeks to have the respect or to share the respect for the sim racer and for the competitors, the pro drivers. And the link was exactly the same. Ben and Eduardo or Darren and all the guys working behind, Dean, all the guys, they are exactly in the same spirit. So the World Cup helped us a lot to discover that. And the other thing that I learned the most in the World Cup, it was a human adventure. And for me, the factor one in the sport, this is the human factor. It is so important because the sport is a great opportunity to generate emotion, to generate passion, to permit the people to meet them together. Normally, you have no chance. I have met so many friends when I was doing this job, as I'm doing now with the motorsport. When I'm doing the World Championship, I'm traveling all around the world. We spoke with Justin before, but Texas is in Houston, if I'm well, and I say I know very well Austin. And because we are racing there many times at the Circuit of the Americas, and I have so many friends. I can say I have friends in Austin, but I have also friends in Japan, or I met some friends in any place we visit, and this is the big add value. So the human factor. So it was. I think that this is what we have to remind when we have the chance, just the chance to participate to an event like this. And if you ask me, what do you remind now about last weekend, except the figures and the high performance and all the things that we are very happy, the human experience. Now I'm missing today the guy like Ben, because we spent so many days together, and I spoke with my team today, and we say, shit, we're not together. So I will try to organize some times around Le Mans, probably the real Le Mans together to celebrate. But I'm just impassioned to do it another challenge with them. That's the idea, because the to play with all these guys was just amazing. If we can do it again, it will be such a good pleasure.
Be perfect. I hear you're a big rugby fan as well. I was speaking to Rachel Cavers,
I am.
One of my old colleagues, and she's a big rugby. Toulon, if I'm correct. Toulon,
yeah, Toulon. Because I'm from Toulon, and my first passion for the sport came from the rugby. But we want to stay friends, you and me, so I will never discuss rugby with English guys. So, but honestly, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. My best friend is English. Nobody's perfect, but okay. And we watched the game. We went to the stadium. We went to the big competition together in Twickenham or in France. And I share with many of my friends. That's exactly the good example. Rugby is the place to make reunification. Is a peace place. We fight on the field, but around we just celebrate the passion for a sport. So this is just like the virtual race has been. It was a fight between the team, but they celebrate together. Same with the fans, same with the people.
And last question, we've kept you well over the allocated time already. Huge rule changes coming in the next year or two for WEC, with I think it's the hypercar regulations. How excited are you for the future of WEC? What do you think is in store for the World Endurance Championship?
Well, I don't know if I will be there, because in any chance there is a future for WEC, and we will see what's happened. It's not a question for me, it's a question for the global interest of this paddock. I feel that with the hypercar and with what we call the LMDH, which is the common program with United States and with our friend from IMSA, I feel that we try to find with Pierre Fillon the correct answer to what the competitors and the fan are looking for, to maintain the passion and to stay very involved. This is what we have to do. And I'm afraid that during the last years, it was an incredible period with the success story with the hybrid and Porsche, Audi, Toyota. But the world changed a lot. The economical situation is totally different. And we have to find a way in the very near future to maintain the interest of the people. And for me, the interest in motorsport is very easy. You have to have the maximum of manufacturers with the power to make the dream happen. Sure. So when you see, if we can imagine that in 3 or 4 years, we could have Ferrari, Porsche, Peugeot, Toyota, I hope Ford or Corvette, fighting for the overall victory, we make the story happen for sure. And it never happened since a long time. Yeah. The last time I saw that, it was at the movie with Le Mans 66.
Same.
So this is our responsibility as organizer to provide the right platform to be able to host these competitors. On the same time, we have to try to simplify the rules and the understanding of our sport. More sophisticated and more difficult is it to understand, less fun you will have with you. Mm-hmm. And the third point is we have to make connection with the right language. And the new generation is speaking a lot about the e-games, for example. So if we have a huge spot on the e-games with Le Mans and with the sports car and with the endurance and with our colleagues from IMSA, we can make a connection that at the end, you will never find a border, because you will be happy to play and you will be happy to watch, or you will be happy to attend the circuit. This is like you have with the FIFA, the game that you have. Any teenager in the world is playing FIFA because he has the feeling he can be Ronaldo or any champion you want. And at the same time, he's attending the stadium as a fan and he's still following the game. And you never reduce the number of players in football, and pro or amateurs. So it should be the same for us. And my big hope is that with this story we are writing for the next 10 years with the LMH and the LMDH, we will have enough space for the technology, but not too much. We will have a good grid or good attendance regarding the participants and the level of the participant, with really a story. We will respect the value of the legacy we receive from this sport and from the motorsport and the sports car. And at the same time, we will find a way to capture a new audience with a new public and with a new generation to regenerate the people who follow us. That's clearly the challenge.
Gérard, we've kept you for way longer than planned. Lastly, congratulations again on an amazing event last week. And
congrats to you, and thank you very much for your support, and thank you for everything.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Amazing event to be part of, and I will definitely see you in Le Mans in September, or I'm coming over for that race. If it's the last thing I do.
You are more than welcome, and I will organize all the extra around. Just be ready.
Merci, Gérard. Au revoir.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye.
So that was our absolutely fascinating interview with Gérard. Really enjoyed that one. Thank you, Luc, for choosing amazing questions, because that was fantastic. But coming up next, we've got sort of the video game side. We've done the real world side. Now we've got the virtual side. We're going to speak with Ben Rossiter-Turner from Motorsport Games. I'm here with Ben Rossiter-Turner from Motorsport Games. And Ben, you were, of course, involved in the incredible 24 hours of Le Mans, with the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans, which was amazing. One of the best sim racing esports events, if not the best of all time. So just talk us a little bit about that. What were your duties exactly? What were you doing for that?
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Good to be with you. Talking about Le Mans and activities during lockdown. So for me, I'm head of esports Motorsport Games, which means I work very closely with the rest of the esports team. The sort of real backbone of it includes Darren Kirk and Dean Prescott, and then we have a number of other guys that work very hard on all these projects. But from my side, I tend to focus on the sporting side of things. So about arranging rules that make sense within the game context, if that makes sense. So we're looking at, I guess, to some extent, mixing real and virtual as much as possible. So I tend to focus on that, and this project is actually really interesting because normally we tend to run the sporting side of things purely from our side, whereas for Le Mans Virtual it was very much a collaboration between ourselves, the ACO, FIA WEC. We had some really great delegates from their side, Cedric and Clement particularly, who helped put this massive rulebook together to ensure that everything was really well thought through, because these guys try and find every single little hole in the rulebooks that we can find. It was actually quite incredible, the number of holes that were poked, and then we obviously have to tape over those. And then when we were live, my main priority when we were live was to, I guess, co-race direct with Eduardo Freitas, who's the normal Le Mans race director, who's been doing it for many years now, a complete legend on the real side of things. That was a real honor. It was really, really good fun, and yeah, hopefully getting invited to go and see what he does in real life as well. But yeah, so I tend to focus on the sporting side of things, making it work from a rules perspective, and organize players, liaise with them, etc. as well.
And what was the biggest challenge that you guys ran into during the actual broadcast? Or I guess let's do both of those. During for the lead up, the preparation, yep. What was the hardest part?
Yeah, I think a project this size kind of goes in phases. So I think it was about 6 weeks prep that we had in total for this. There's 200 drivers. So first of all was to try and get a good grid. So we got a good grid, we got really great names, where there were teams that wanted to participate but didn't have any sim drivers. We helped with make the connection with Andy Gray and some of the other guys as well. If there were sim drivers who needed the other way around, we would help do that. So that was step one. We made sure that we had a good grid, validated the grid with a selection committee. So that was the first big tick for us. Meanwhile, we were all compiling this, I think it was a 16-page rule book at the end of it, which was a lot of fun. That was a big step. And then we have to start organizing these test events for the drivers to start taking it seriously, start ensuring that they know the track very well. We also had to keep track of all of the drivers, because just like real life, we ensured that all of the drivers did at least 10 laps of Le Mans on an official practice server before the race. Of course, many of them were doing much more. One thing that is quite different is that a lot of them set up their own private test servers. So they would go, they would only go flat out on their own servers, especially the GTE class, who don't want to influence the BOP negatively for themselves. So they would do all of their testing behind closed doors. But we made sure that everyone, was able to drive Le Mans in an acceptable manner, in a simulated fashion. Obviously, all these guys are very experienced in real life, but took some of them a little bit more time than others. But absolutely, by the end of it, everyone was absolutely on pace, and it was really incredible to see. So we got through that one, and then it's just liaising and sorting out technical problems, advising where possible. There's a lot of team viewer going on, so some people try and help them out. And then a lot of going backwards and forwards on paint schemes as well. So they would submit the paint schemes. Maybe there'd be some slight problems. Maybe they resize the number boards. All of that was really was sort of within our remit to take, make sure that they were correctly formatted, then passed on to Studio 397, and Dean Prescott handled that and did a really great job of it. So those are probably the biggest hurdles up to the race. And then, when we got to the race itself, actually setting up in Paris was great. There was a bit of a long drive from the UK, and we had a lot of setup to do, although less than normal. We're quite used to doing big on-site events with simulators and staging and lighting, and
right.
Actually, this is just some PCs in a room for the broadcast and race control for Eduardo and myself. So actually, I say it was a big setup. It was actually quite small, but it was also a very small team as well. I guess the biggest challenge for us was because we couldn't bring everyone to Paris because of the travel restrictions. It was a very, very small team, and a lot of us didn't sleep. So
right.
we have a very dedicated team, so they to be fair, they know what they're signing up for, and they do a great job, and we work together all the time. So there'll be more Le Mans projects, and they enjoy it. So I feel bad for them, but at the same time, I'm sure they enjoyed the experience.
And what was your favorite part of the broadcast, of the setup, whatever it might be? I could tell you my favorite part was when Ben Constanduras basically sent Chris McCarthy to bed. That was probably while you were sleeping, if you did get any sleep, because that was like in the very dead of night. But that was my favorite part. What was your favorite part of the broadcast?
Absolutely, hands down, Simon Pagenaud's sim swap. Like, it was just so funny. I've never seen that before in any competition. Really, really funny to watch. The fact that he'd even thought that was a point of weakness.
Right. Yes.
He build a second seat, and so it was almost like he rehearsed it, right?
Right.
He must have rehearsed it because he was so quick at it. He probably didn't. He probably lost a minute, maybe less than that, and. I'm very glad that the guys on TV managed to catch it, because that was absolute gold for me.
I think I've seen F1 pit stops that were more of a shambles than that was. Because, yeah, you're right. I mean, he looked like he genuinely had practiced that before. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, I assume it was just quick thinking. But, I mean, you're right. He's got a spare sim on the side. So maybe he did. I'm not entirely
He obviously prepared. And that's wonderful. I mean, the other big moment that sticks out to most people is the fuel. It was early morning, wasn't it? One of the teams, was it Cool Racing? They ran out of fuel.
Yes.
And one of their teammates pushed them to the pit box, which was really nice as well.
Yes, that was a big one for me as well too. I remember because I was doing the socials, of course, for Motorsport Games at the time, and when that happened, I was like, "Oh my god, I have to share that immediately with everybody," because that's just such a pure and fantastic moment. Which actually, I think it happened in the NASCAR race at Talladega yesterday as well too. So it's sort of like life imitating art or something like that, if you wanted to go down that route.
We had them because from memory. The whole thing is a little bit hazy now. But the team that got stuck was actually one of the ones in the studio.
Oh, really?
And they there, what can we do? Like, well, we can't help you. We can't put the fuel magically in your car.
Right.
We can't deploy the safety car to drive a lap dangerously on the circuit to come round and push you into your box. So unfortunately, from our side, that's game over for us. And they managed to convince another team. I'm not sure how. I think they ended up posting on the Discord channel, like, any team can help us push us to the pits, to our pit box. That'd be amazing.
I believe it was the Alpine team, wasn't it?
Oh, it was the Alpine, sorry. Yeah,
that did the pushing, I mean. The cool racers ran out. Alpine pushed them. Yeah. And I think Alpine was pretty low down in the standings at the time. So I think they said, you know what? We're already pretty far down, so we might as well.
Yeah, I mean 24-hour racing is absolutely about winning, but there's also the whole achievement of making the 24 hours.
Yes.
And I think if you're out of contention and you can help another competitor get that to that same feeling of completing such a momentous task, then good on them for doing it. It was great.
Yeah. Which driver or team, I guess, surprised you the most during the 24 hours of Le Mans Virtual?
So that's a good question. I was quite impressed by second place in GT was the Aston team. I thought they did very well. Didn't necessarily have the sim names that I thought would end up in that position. I think the Corvette that was a little bit unlucky with the incident on the Mulsanne, which I think dropped them down to third. But they did very well in GTE. The one thing that probably stood out, aside from the bike colours coming in second, which was very well, but overall the preparation from the Williams teams was very spot on. That they were always looking for like extra tenths, extra hundredths, extra thousandths of a second, always challenging the rule book in various creative ways. So not necessarily a specific driver from my mind, but the team preparation from Williams, I think, was really great. But that said, look, all of the teams took it super seriously. They had, a lot, in particular the WEC teams. They got the data from the timing partner, Alcamel, who had managed to extract it from rFactor, and then they presented it into this team data client. So they were using exactly the same tools they would in normal life, analyzing that. Yeah, it had various engineers running. It was absolutely to a complete next level to any other endurance race I'd ever run or seen run on a virtual platform before. Really, really incredible.
And is that something that only rFactor could have done, do you think? I mean, because I used to be a race engineer for FSR, and that was done in rFactor. And, it feels like there's just certain things that you can do with rFactor that you just can't do with other settings.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of the racing games or simulation platforms do have APIs. Like I think iRacing has an API that probably allows you to do similar things. But in complete honesty, I think rFactor is probably the most flexible because you can build custom plugins for it quite easily. It's really built as a modding platform, so pretty much any data that you want can be pulled out. How you do it, whether it's on the server or whether it's on the client side, like that's a technical problem that if you're a software engineer, you've got to think about. But yeah, there are some incredible things you can do with rFactor too, for sure.
And what lessons did you learn from that broadcast for the future?
I learned quite a lot from Mr. Neveu, who you spoke to last week, I believe.
Fascinating guy.
He's absolutely so entertaining, but also can be incredibly scary at times as well. But
we didn't experience that. We didn't.
No, of course not. You see the right side. But the thing is, Gérard is a very passionate guy and wants the best results. And absolutely his the way he steers the ship makes you want to deliver in the right way. But the main thing that aside from the passion for the project, I guess, is the attention to detail in what entertaining things can be put on. What who would have thought about putting a DJ set, whether you liked it or whether you didn't? And I thought some things worked with it and some things didn't. Things can be learned. For example, like we did miss part of the battle for the LMPs, and the timing tower wasn't unfortunately there. But actually, I think that's really great fun. And how the story changes over 24 hours as well was all fully prepared for, fully thought out. I don't think anyone previously has done a full 24-hour virtual race in a TV studio with that level of quality in production. It's I guess a risky move for anyone in that position of power within a major organization like World Endurance Championship, and it really paid off. So I learned a lot from Gérard, his management style, and just the way that the TV production guys worked with us to put on the best possible show. I think that was really good fun.
And this is something that I actually wanted to ask Gérard, but I mean, Luke was like in a groove with him, and I was just so enthralled with everything that he was saying, so I didn't dare interrupt. But what do you think the chances are of us seeing this sort of thing more regularly? Because of course, 2020 is a bit of a special year with the pandemic and the lockdowns and all of that kind of stuff. So in a way, sim racing has gotten kind of lucky to be able to put on an event like this. But do you think the response is such that we can maybe start to see more and more of these events in the future?
I think racing esports, sim racing will just continue to get bigger. We'll see a dip in the next few months.
Right.
But real drivers go back to racing, the focus goes back to real sport, etc. But certainly, yes, I do think you'll see it again. I don't think you'll ever see it in the second week of June again.
Right.
Because that was a unique opportunity for all of us. But there's a lot of different projects out there that are being worked on or being analysed or being talked about that could be really incredible for the whole scene. In-person events, online events, sim drivers, real drivers. There's a huge amount of things on the table, lots of different series. I think one of the things, I'm going on a slight tangent here, that I think I enjoyed most about this whole period was that we had lots of drivers hopping disciplines.
Yes.
So you had rallycross drivers doing, doing endurance racing, or you had F1 drivers doing rallycross, or whatever way around, NASCAR drivers doing whatever. I think it was really, really quite cool. Love to see more of that. Because it helps, particularly for some of the smaller series, and I guess you could look at it from the same way for esports. Like, to have the superstars move over shines a nice spotlight on the entire motorsport community. So that was really good fun. It was nice to see supercars drivers doing a Le Mans and whatever else. But yeah, it was that's been really interesting as well.
Speaking of other events, actually, that segued very nicely. What other types of virtual events would you like to work on? So you've done virtual Le Mans. Would you like to do a virtual 24 hours of Nordschleife, a virtual Indy 500?
But to be fair, we got to the point where we've almost done most things. I mean, just during lockdown, we've been working on 7 different games. Worked with Formula E, worked with obviously NASCAR Heat, worked on iRacing, the Veloci Pro Series, and Veloci, not the GP.
Not the
series.
GP, yep.
That's the one. On the F1 game. So we've done quite a few different things. I've always thought that IndyCar should have something a bit more substantial. I think what they did was good, for sure. Don't get me wrong, but I would like to see like an esports series that's not just the pros and develop that, for sure. I'd love to. I think a lot of this comes down to what products are out there and what games have what content, right? So some series have a lot of different, like, random things in different pockets. And, if I looked at, I don't know, say British Touring Cars, they don't have a British Touring Car game yet. I know it's been spoken about at various points and Twitter and whatever, but you can't just go out there and have the British Touring Car experience. As much like that is absolutely the number one thing that I would love to do right now. Anyway, I just want to see that close racing that you see in British Touring Cars as a touring car fan for the last few years. So I think what I hope has happened over this period is a lot of rights holders have kind of thought about what experiences they have currently. Someone like IndyCar is kind of tied to iRacing. I think they should have their own experience. I think the brand is big enough, and I think it should be more accessible to console users. Same with British Touring Cars. They weren't able to do anything because they didn't have the content all together in one place. There's one car in Forza, but that doesn't make an esports series.
Yeah.
And same with V8 supercars. They're also tied to iRacing with their model, and it's not particularly accessible. I think there's a lot out there on the table to make truly accessible sports simulation games for each individual rights holder that can really make compelling esports series and enjoyable gaming experiences as well.
And this is an interesting one. We're getting to the end here, but I did want to ask your opinion on how do you see esports and motorsports coexisting in the future? Because I know there's been talk recently about, esports drivers becoming real motorsport drivers, and like, should that necessarily be the end goal? We have this cross pollination where real drivers are doing sim racing and sim racers are doing real driving, like Brendan Lee getting to drive in real life, Igor Fraga getting to drive in real life after doing the Gran Turismo stuff. There's a lot of that, but should that necessarily be the goal? Should it sometimes be the goal? What do you think is going to happen in the future now between esports and motorsports?
Short answer is I don't think it should be the goal. And it absolutely drives me insane every time I get into another conference with people that kind of think that it's just the feeder series, it's the new karting,
right?
It's new karting, right? We're in completely different ballpark. Absolutely, it's kind of been done, right? The whole gamer to racer thing, it's been done, it's happened, and with some good success as well. But not every gamer wants to become a real racer. Some of us want to play in our spare time, which is fine. That's gaming, not necessarily esports. And the esports side of things has shown that it's a really good product on its own. That people want to watch it, that people want to keep up to date with it. They enjoy the experience of seeing people compete at the highest level. And if you enjoy watching people at the highest level in esports, there's no need to then push all of them into the real world where everything is suddenly, multi-millions to get in a race seat. We're talking about a true level playing field for all of the drivers. One that doesn't exist. It just can't exist in the real world because of budgets, because of machinery, because of whatever.
Personnel.
It's just completely, exactly. It's just not possible. And therefore, for me, esports is that true level playing field where we can really, really see who is the best driver, who are the best teams. From an organization perspective, obviously they're not developing a car in the same way that they would in real life. But certainly from a driver perspective. And that for me gives us enough of something to hold on to broadcast it, because we're talking about the best talents. We can talk about that. So I get a little bit frustrated when it's always insinuated that the end goal must be F1 for everyone, or it must be in real racing. And you'll see people jump across, like James Baldwin's of the world, Jan Mardenborough's. But I've had many esports drivers say they're fine with being the best at what they do best, right? So it's going to be an interesting space. Lots to see how it develops. It's a little bit fragmented with lots of different games, lots of different pieces of content across lots of titles. And I think as the space becomes a bit more professional, you'll see that settle down a little bit more, easier to keep on top of. The rights holders will have their content in singular places to enable them to run high quality sports events, and hopefully they're working with us on that as well.
Looking forward to it. And we'll just end off on not a loaded question whatsoever. What is your favorite racing video game of all time? Doesn't have to be a simulation. Any racing video game. Could be Mario Kart for all I care.
Really good question. So I have a couple of soft spots from when I was younger. So the original Gran Turismo, amazing, of course. And then F197 as well was also incredible. I used to love having Murray Walker commentate whilst I was driving. I thought that was incredible. I kind of want to see that come back into racing games, rightly or wrongly. At least from maybe a single player experience. I don't think that could ever happen in multiplayer.
Right. 20 Murray Walkers talking at once.
It was, yeah, exactly. I thought it was really, really cool. And I feel like it's a shame that we don't get that anymore in racing games. From a modern perspective, I think that my favorite go-to, I guess, driving experience for a feel perspective is R Factor 2. But there's there's many products out there that are absolutely top notch, and we work with them all the time. So for me, the feel right now is the best one out there is rFactor 2.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Ben. I really appreciate you giving us our time and providing your insights into, again, what is one of the most successful and amazing sim racing esports events that's ever happened. Thanks so much.
So, Mr. Ben Rossiter-Turner, future race control director for the World Endurance Championship. Ben's a good friend of both of us. We've been working with him for the past few months. I think there's no better compliment to come for Ben personally from the let's call him the boss of WEC, who's essentially going, you did a good job. I think you could come into the real world. I think that's such a compliment to Ben, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, Ben did a fantastic job. Gérard did a fantastic job. I mean, absolutely everybody that was involved in Le Mans should be super duper proud of themselves. Some of the biggest numbers I've ever seen for esports. And, something that Ben kind of touched on in my interview with him, he's talking about how the bubble is eventually going to pop.
Yeah.
But, I really think with stuff like Le Mans Virtual, the 24 hours of Le Mans Virtual, it's that kind of event that's going to create some retention. You know what I mean? Some of the hundreds of thousands, millions of fans that tuned into sim racing potentially for the very first time, some of those are going to stick around because of an event like that.
For me, I'm a huge football fan or soccer fan for anyone living in the US, and for me, the big thing in the off season for football, you get friendlies, you get these competitions where there's no kind of competitive onus on it. It's purely preparation for the upcoming season, and I'd love to see motorsport do something like that. And I think sim racing is the perfect opportunity when most of the European circuits are covered in snow during the winter. I think it's a perfect opportunity to get together kind of the world's best motorsport drivers, sim racers to come together and kind of race on that level platform. I don't know what you think. I don't think we're ever going to see a lineup like this again. It's such a rare kind of situation and timing for all that to come together. Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Simon Pagenaud, Jordan Taylor. It was crazy.
I mean, it was, since you mentioned Race of Champions, it was almost like a Race of Champions, but with teams, it had that feel to it, that all-star feel to it of, just like, look at all these names. It's just, I was really blown away by it. And I think you may be right. I think that it might be like a high tide mark, a high water mark where everything is essentially going to be compared to that, because it really did take the planets aligning, the stars aligning to make this sort of thing happen. I think it could happen again in the future. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be difficult. But I'm just forever grateful that we were able to make lemonade out of lemons, as we say in America. We took that bad situation and we got something amazing out of it. And it wasn't just 24 hours of Le Mans. I don't want to make it seem like that was the one good thing to come out of this. There's been plenty of other sim racing and esports that isn't sim racing. Lots of things have stepped up to entertain us during 2020 that would have been, off to the side otherwise. But it's been really beautiful. It really has. Like you said, just that list of drivers, that's something else.
It got me thinking. I think we need to do like a lockdown review. Like,
yes,
the best. Because look, let's go through the list. We've had Veloce, not the GP. I think were the kind of guys to really kickstart it.
Yep.
We've had the supercars down in Australia, which has been some of the most amazing esports production we've ever seen. We've had we have the IndyCar guys putting on awesome. We've had the NASCAR guys putting on awesome racing.
WRX.
Exactly, the World RX Esports. Charles Leclerc even raced in that 2 rounds ago. So that
he'll do anything.
I think for me, it's just shown that look, it's a very different era of the F1 stars. There's a lot of young drivers in Formula One, which I hadn't seen for a long time. And I think getting the guys who are at the top of the motorsport world, the F1 guys always will be, getting them interested in racing and therefore getting their fan bases interested in sim racing. I think that's been the most positive thing to come out of this. And look, while the racing may calm down a little bit, the kind of volume of events may go down massively, I don't think the interest is going to go away. at all. I think we've really built up I don't want to say we, but the wider motorsport community have built up such a good new fan base who are interested in the sim side of things. And I just hope this goes on for a long time. I really do.
I approve of your usage of the word "we" there, actually, because I've always been, people that have been following me on social media for years and years and years at this point will know that I've always thought, the sim racing community, the racing video game community, even, let's get away from the word sim, the racing video game community, it's been shrinking, honestly. For a lot of people that don't know, we're in the industry, so we kind of know this, but racing games are on the decline and have been for quite some time. And I think this is the kind of thing that can really reinvigorate that space. And, we're a small group. We're a niche within a niche. We're, so we have to stick together. I think too often people get territorial when it comes to sim racing. iRacing is better than R Factor. Assetto Corsa is better than Race Room. And Gran Turismo is better than Forza, and yada, yada, yada. I've always been one of those guys. I say race what you love. Find the one that's right for you. There's going to be one out there. No racing game is perfect. Literally none of them are perfect. Maybe we could do this for a podcast one day, but I always thought it'd be cool to take the best parts from each sim. You get the replay system from iRacing, you get the physics from R Factor 2, you get, so on and so forth. And you could make the perfect game in theory, like a fantasy game essentially, but there's no perfect game out there. So it's really about finding what you love and mixing it up as well too. As you said, we've seen a lot of people going from discipline to discipline.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc, is playing dirt rally, he's playing F1, he's playing iRacing, and he's having fun with all of them. And I think that's one of the best messages that we can take away.
I think if you just go through my Xbox library at the minute, I've probably got enough racing games in there to create that perfect video game. But I've got so many to download. We're going to talk about all this in the next episode, but Dirt 5 footage has just been released, which looks awesome. I can't wait for that. I love the Dirt series. I love the guys at Codemasters. Worked with them for World Rallycross for a long time and can't wait to see what comes of that. But Assetto Corsa Competizione has just come out for the consoles, which has its frame rate issues, which you've all seen. Possibly the worst gameplay video I think we've ever seen. Someone is playing on a D-pad.
Thankfully, there's been better stuff that's come out since then, so it's not all bad. It's just that one.
Just to say, I've seen. We had a Le Mans 24 virtual competitor, Dave Perel, who's just come out and he's been playing Assetto Corsa this morning and says it is the best console sim he's ever played. So I can't wait to get that downloaded. I'm going to get onto Codemasters because I want early access Dirt 5 as well. So I'm going to see if I can get that and maybe give you guys a bit of a sneak peek in the next episode. I'm not making any promises. F1 2020 is on the way. And of course, NASCAR Heat 5 coming out next month. Gold Edition on July 7th and the Standard Edition on July 10th. That is Justin's realm. We're not going to go into that. We'll talk more about NASCAR Heat 5 next time. But guys, we can talk for ages and ages, but it's been an awesome podcast. Thank you to Gérard and Ben for joining us, and thank you for listening. As I always say, follow us on social media at Sport Games, or if you want to talk to Justin in particular, at Justin Talks F1 on Twitter, or me at __ Luke J. We're always here to talk. We love talking racing games, as you can probably tell, so feel free to reach out to us. If you have any requests for the podcast, reach out to us personally, and at Sport Games for everything. #Motorsport Games Podcast, and we'll see you very, very soon.
Bye-bye.